get here. There it is.
I think it is.
I believe this
Yeah.
should be working now.
Okay, great.
Let me see if people can hear, if the audio is good, but I think I think they should be able to hear us now. Um, but anyway, let me check this. I think they should be able to hear us now. Um,
They're gonna go really good.
but anyway, let me check this. I think. Okay, hold on. Let me double check something. Okay, I think the audio is good. I just wanted to make sure we are sharing the video. Okay, I think this is good now. Let me just double check. People can hear us now. Let me just make sure it's on the right screen where you can see both of us.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I think we are working. It's working now. Um, Hello. Welcome. We are going to talk a little bit about Hawaiian coffees or Kona coffees. I will be upfront and say I am completely out of the loop on um, a lot of coffees that happen, like what happens in Hawaii. I've actually never been to Hawaii, despite there being a lot of, I guess, like everybody goes there for vacation, and then at least in the
Yeah.
States, coffee is kind of known, like, oh, people go and get Kona coffee and all of that. But I think kind of in recent times, or at least I would say with like this emergence of specialty coffee with like all the coffee nerds and all of that, a lot of people have kind of like written off Kona coffee at times, or like, coffee from Hawaii, oh, coffee from the States, like no good. But there are a lot of, as we kind of have seen, there are actually like a lot of really interesting producers and varietals and things like that that all happen at a specialty level. And I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about that, or really have Eric here from Pacific Coffee Research talk a bit about some of the coffees. I think I don't know if I'll be able to taste all of these coffees, but I for sure will try some of them, and then we'll kind of go from there. So that's the plan for today. But can we do some intros? That would be, I think, a good start.
Absolutely. I'll let, do you want to go first or do you want me to go? Okay, okay, cool. My name is Eric Musil. I work here in Hawaii in the specialty coffee industry. I work for Pacific Coffee Research, as well as I manage two coffee farms. IQ grade, I'm an AST, and just super involved in the industry here in Hawaii and want to highlight some of these beautiful coffees today.
And my name is Britt Horn. I am the founder of Pacific Coffee Research. I started the company in 2017 with a mission to kind of bridge this gap that I was seeing between the consumers and the producers here. So I'm also an AST for the Specialty Coffee Association, and that was a main driver, was teaching classes and workshops and offering cupping analysis for the coffee producing community here. And so we have had a cupping lab and a roastery since 2017, and that's what we do. I've also had, my company has also had the honor of hosting the Hawaii Coffee Association, that's the statewide or island-wide cupping competitions, as well as the Kona Coffee Cultural Festival cupping competition, which is regional since 2018. So we just wrapped the Kona Coffee Cultural Festival cupping competition, and that's where some of these samples that you're tasting today, that's where they're coming from. So this is a great opportunity for us to be able to talk about, just like what you said, is happening here in the industry. We're really stoked to see some of the advancements and the evolution of the coffee industry here. So thanks for taking some time to give us this platform to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that at least I can share a little bit about my background, or I guess like my history with coffee, which is, I would say, kind of on the shorter end. Or I come from kind of this post-COVID era, or I got into coffee over COVID, and then kind of dove really deep as an enthusiast, and kind of in recent years, really have been exploring a lot of coffees from, I would say, like a producer level, like, what are these producers doing, and where is coffee grown, and all of that, and I feel like I dive relatively deep into kind of the exploration of coffee and tasting a bunch of coffees, and I cannot even remember. I think I've only tasted like one or two Hawaiian coffees in recent times, which is like, really interesting when I think about it as like an enthusiast. I'm like, oh, I'm trying so many different coffees, and also from a professional level, I get to try so many different coffees. Yet I really don't get to touch a lot of Hawaiian coffee. So that's really interesting. And I think, as I was mentioning like a bit earlier, I think a lot of the enthusiast community does seem to kind of like write off these coffees, or maybe it's not that like available for a lot of these. For a lot of, I'd say, consumers. Like, one thing that's really interesting. So I think we can talk a little bit about the coffees going forward. But it's like, I'm looking at some of these samples you've given me, and I'm like, wow, there's geisha here. It's like, I didn't even know, you could grow geisha in Hawaii. But yeah, I guess it's like kind of in your guys' experience, like, how come you think that is? It's like a lot of the enthusiasts don't really get to touch some of these coffees that much.
I think a big part of it is that the availability of coffee in that comes from Hawaii. As you mentioned before, I think you mentioned this before. I mean, it's a big tourist state, so close to 100% of the coffee that is produced here is also sold here, or as it's considered would be consumed here, even though it's coffee that's purchased and maybe like brought back to the United States, or wherever people are visiting from. That's coffee that's purchased generally like directly from producers, and there's not a lot of green coffee sales, for example, to roasting companies. I think that there's also a lot of like a misunderstanding around like why coffee from Hawaii costs what it does, like why the price point is what it is. And I think, like, when I first moved here, one of the things that drove me crazy was people at cafes, you'd have a tourist come in and ask the question, why is Kona coffee so expensive? And the knee-jerk response for this barista is to say, but it's because it's the best in the world, which is just not true. Like, there's wonderful coffees that grow here, but there's also, like, non-specialty coffees that are grown here too, just like every other coffee growing region in the world. The reason that coffee from Hawaii is so expensive is because the cost of production is expensive here, and people are paid a minimum, if not living wage in most cases, who are producing these products. So that's the reason for the price point. And if that's not something that's like really explicitly understood, then you're looking at like, well, why doesn't the quality match that price point? Because that's not what that's not where we're coming from when we're talking about the price point of Hawaii grown coffees.
I see.
So I think there's just a lot of I think there's just a lack of awareness. I think that there's a lot of room for Hawaii to do a better job of supporting our brand, rather than it just being this brand of like, tourism coffee, best in the world. Like that's getting a little weak. So I think these are opportunities to have these kinds of conversations.
Yeah. And I think another side to that same conversation is that Kona hasn't needed to evolve to a bigger market, right? The market's always coming, right? So why would I increase my quality as a farmer when I can easily do the same thing and keep selling my coffee at a premium, right? So
it's not like you have coffee left over at the end of the year.
Right.
You sell it no matter what.
Exactly. So there are some farmers that are really trying and really producing excellent coffee. And it's just a very small portion of the market. But I think things like the cupping competition is increasing just a perception of Hawaii coffee in general, and also bringing farmers into, okay, what can I do to increase my quality? Is there a bigger market for that? And can I even sell this coffee at an even higher price if I'm producing this next level of quality? So the competitions, I think, have spurred on new generations and a new snowball effect of people pursuing quality in Hawaii. And I hope that's just going to get even bigger.
I see. Okay. Well, I think let's kind of, I would say, dive into some of these coffees. It's a little later on my end than you guys, so I can only drink so much coffee. But can we, or should we? You have the same coffees as I do, or I can kind of go over some of these. And I guess like the one, I feel like this is a very basic question, but it's like, what is Kona exactly? Like, what does that mean, or that? It says like 100% Kona here.
Yeah. It's a great question, because Kona is actually only one of the growing regions in Hawaii. There are actually 8 growing regions in total. 4 of them are here on the Big Island, on the island of Hawaii, and the other 4 are on the other islands spread out, which we can talk about specifics, but Kona is just one of the growing regions.
And it's about a 50-mile long from the north end of Kona to the south end of Kona, and about 4 miles wide from the ocean up to the top of two volcanoes that Kona exists on. So it's a relatively small growing region.
I see. So here are the coffees. I don't know if the stream can see this, but I'll read off some of these, and we'll kind of go from there. So we have actually, there are a fair bit of coffees here, but we have an 86.1 Gesha pulp dried hydro honey. We have another Gesha inoculated 48. Okay, interesting. So we have like already 2 coffees here where you're seeing, I would say, like advanced processing, right? You're seeing like processing that you'll find in like your Columbias and people tapping into advanced fermentation. So we have, and it's Gesha also. That's really cool. Then we have red bourbon, parchment dried. We have Kona typica, parchment dried cultivation conventional here. I'm just reading this off. 87.55 SL34 inoculated 48 hours. Interesting, Pacamara from parchment dried, and then we have another 87.55 also parchment dried inoculated, but the elevation, so we have two I think these are the similar coffees, but the elevation is 1900 meters and the other one's 2500. So that's really interesting to see like different varietals and also the level of processing. So I'm gonna kind of like, I guess like if you guys want to, maybe I can cup these. I only have so many cupping bowls, so we'll attempt to set up a cupping, I guess. Or maybe should I brew these? What do you?
We're cupping them.
Ooh, I mean, yeah. Either way you want to go. If you want to narrow it down, we can give some recommendations.
Or maybe I should brew. How about I brew? Maybe brewing would be easier since I have so many coffees. What do you guys recommend?
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna cup on our side. I think it's more in taste side by side, multiple cups. But if you want to brew, man, we're here with you. So whatever you feel more comfortable doing.
I think maybe I will brew. I have
Yeah.
yeah, let's do that. I always like to I don't cup as much nowadays, and I always find brewing to be incredibly fun.
Yep.
And it I actually think I've only had Hawaiian coffees a handful of times in my um, coffee enthusiast journey, so this is quite exciting to get into these. So
Yep.
which one should I start with?
Oh, I mean, I think for the specialty audience, like most people will want to hear how the geisha is, right?
Okay.
That's kind of like something. So, I mean, I would recommend the hydro honey geisha.
Okay.
I would also recommend the Kona Typica because this is like a very culturally significant coffee for Kona. That's one we definitely need to highlight. And then the SL34 that's at 2,500 feet elevation is really nice as well. And if you want to go down to the Red Bourbon, I know that a lot of people like Red Bourbon as well. It depends on how many you want to go from there.
Okay,
But that'd be a good selection.
I'll try these three. If it
Yeah.
was a little earlier in the day, I would have done more, but I'm
Yep.
gonna get too caffeinated. So, well, I'll brew these three, and then I guess you guys can also we can cup the same coffees side by side, or
Yes.
however you want to go. But yeah, I'm opening up the hydro honey right now, and let's see
Okay.
if anybody is in the chat.
Oh yeah, we're definitely very open to answering questions if people in the chat
Yeah.
have questions.
And
I know you're a one-man show.
yeah. So we'll see if people are. We have a few people on right now. Okay, all right. Oh wow. So these were roasted by you guys.
Yeah, so the samples that I sent you, I actually roasted separately than the ones in the competition. So those are actually roasted on a Santoker Q7.
Oh, cool.
So little fluid bed. But yeah, they're relatively light roasts, so I think you'll enjoy them. And this will be a very different take than a lot of the times you get from Kona coffees in general. So it'll be fun.
Yeah. Also, what's interesting to me is the size of the beans. Is I feel like these are really big. I mean, this is the Gesha, but I mean, these are big. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I am going
Well,
to brew some.
Go for it.
And we'll see what
Mark?
people.
Oh yeah, that's good. And Brian, at some point, I would love to talk a little bit about elevation and coffee. That's just a very interesting topic and a controversial one. It's just a really fun one to talk about from the perspective of Hawaii.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
even know, or I guess I've never been to Hawaii, but I'm like, wow, 2,500 meters. Isn't that like insanely tall?
So this is 2,500 feet.
Oh, feet. Ah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Now this makes sense. I was like, wait, that's crazy. Okay, all right. So feet. Okay, that's what's interesting.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I see. So I am going to brew some coffees. How big is specialty domestically in Hawaii? As a question.
Ooh, I would. How big is the specialty market like here in Hawaii? I would say not very big. There's really only It's a small market here. There are some cafes and some roasters that are really aiming towards that market, but it's not so big. So, they're doing what they can. There are some amazing roasters and some amazing cafes here in Hawaii, but it is a huge market that has huge growing potential. Like we're not even close to the tippy top, but it is growing, which is encouraging.
So this smells really nice. I just ground it up. I'm gonna brew it, but yeah, it smells nice. I do actually, I guess I do associate some of, maybe there's like a little bit of earthiness characteristics that I'm getting, where I would say is like characteristic to, at least in my opinion, of like lower elevation coffees. But we'll see what happens once we brew these. But I think I'll brew this and then 2 or 3 other coffees, and we'll see who else comes by, if we have any other questions from the chat and all of that. But this is kind of what, at least what I do on the streams, is we just like brew coffee and hang out with people and kind of have a good time. But one thing I think is quite interesting to, at least for me, is like, so say somebody wants to buy some of these coffees. Like we're talking about these coffees, right? Do you guys sell this online, or like can people pick this up somewhere?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely one of the challenges here. Is a lot of the farms are selling direct to consumer. So, is there like one specific database where you can find? There's 1,000 farms in Kona. Most of the farms here are 3.5 acres. They're very small. So it can be challenging to identify some of the specialty coffee growers, producers here. My recommendation is, if you look on the Kona Coffee Cultural Festival website or the Hawaii Coffee Association website, you can see some of the farms that are winning the awards like year after year, because there definitely are some contenders who are consistently top scoring producers. And so at least you can see who like the names of these producers. And then of course check out their websites, because many of them are open to selling green coffee in smaller quantities, or in some cases they are doing their own roasting, and some of them are talented coffee roasters. Our company, we do buy coffees from from Kona and Ka'u. And we are selective with purchasing specialty scoring coffees. Many of the lots that are submitted into the competitions are, 5-pound lots of coffee, maybe 50-pound lots of coffee. I mean, they're very, very small. So yes, you can get your hands on them, and of course, if you ever have questions, certainly like that's part of what our company is designed to do, is point you in the direction of accessing what you're looking for here in Hawaii. But yeah, checking out the 2 organizations that are the 2 trade organizations that are supporting the industry both here and in Hawaii. That's the Kona Coffee Cultural Festival and Hawaii Coffee Association. At least you can get some of the names of top scoring growers here.
I am trying to figure out exactly what I'm smelling. So, how like, I guess it's like I haven't had enough Hawaiian coffee, Kona coffees to kind of like to like associate what I'm exactly smelling to like what is in the cup. Like that's what I'm trying to figure out, because in just like a week or 2 ago, I was tasting a bunch of Thai coffees, and then I've gotten a chance to like taste a lot of like Indian coffees and a bunch of all of and there's like I'd say an associated flavor profile to the coffees. I guess I'm curious. Well, maybe it's going to really change depending on how these coffees are processed and all that. But I would be curious to see like what you guys think about like when somebody says, what should these coffees taste like, or what is the profile of these coffees?
Well, I have one question for you really quickly. Which coffee did you brew first?
I brewed the Hydro Honey Gesha.
Okay.
The 6.
Nice.
hydro honey geisha. So brewing this one, and I'll give it a little taste. For question, what are some of your favorite varietals being grown?
Ooh. In Hawaii. Oh man. There's a couple farms that have Larina Point 2, which is really fun. Marco Hipe here is on the island. Some of those are some great lots. Some geishas are fantastic. And I've really been surprised with the quality of Kona typicas increasing as well. Lots of really nice, floral, sweet, bright coffees. And some of the other growing regions in Hawaii are going to start to get more popularity as they get discovered as well.
I just opened up the Typica, the Kona Typica, and I am smelling that against this geisha, and I actually think this Typica smells... Oh, yeah. Am I crazy to say this Typica smells a little more floral than the geisha?
Sure.
This is one of the most floral Typicas I've cupped here in the last several years. I was really, really excited about this coffee.
So I'm gonna brew that next. But
sounds good. Yeah, we're almost at tasting temperature on these bowls, so our timing might work out pretty good.
Yeah, but I have the geisha already done. It says that we have a question. What processing method is special to Hawaii? If there is a special process.
Sure. Well, I would say so. Hawaii or Kona has been growing coffee commercially for about 200 years, and they inherited a couple of varieties, most notably being the Typica variety that has been prolific here in Kona for the last 200 years. And traditionally, it is a water process coffee. We have access to a lot of water here. It's a pretty humid climate, so being washed has always been the prized and the preferred processing method. I mean, that's what I would say is the preferred method. I don't know that I would say like the special processing method. I think, again, over the last 10 years that I've been in the industry here, I've seen a lot of growers who are kind of pivoting to try. There was one coffee farmer about 5 years ago who came in top 10 in one of these competitions. And they came in top 10 with a Typica SL34, that's like what they were growing on their farms. That was was a mixed lot. And they did a pulp dry. And you really hadn't seen a lot of growers doing honey processing here in the past. But they were really interested in water conservation and came out in the top 10. And since then, that's really spurred on a lot of Kona coffee grower interest in utilizing, the pulp dried coffee processing method. And of course, certainly you're seeing a lot of folks that are doing yeast inoculation, which has definitely been a bit controversial here. But I love to see it. I love to see the controversy and people pushing the limits and kind of just shaking up the status quo. What do you want to add?
And I would say too, I think there are a few farms that are kind of making their own waves and their own processing methods famous. Like, you see this hydro honey. There's one farm on the island that does a lot of champagne yeast, and that's kind of their. So specific farms are kind of taking their own steps as well, and kind of trying to have a niche inside of the market too.
Let's see. Yeah, somebody says, can you do a lilikoi co-ferment, please?
All right. I've never seen anyone do. I don't even see anyone do this. There's a pretty popular one is the cinnamon co-ferment. We have a really lovely one actually that we're featuring over the holidays. So it really does taste like Christmas coffee.
Yeah.
I haven't seen I've seen some co-ferments. It's definitely not gotten as popular here. But I have, seen lilikoi co-ferments, like one that we tried from Little Waves earlier this year that came from
that's
Colombia.
Right. Yep.
And that was fun. I can imagine someone getting into that here.
Yeah. I experimented with a few co-ferments earlier this year. I did one where it was a co-ferment in the coffee cherry, the skin. I did one where it was blueberries. Sorry, my screen is turning off. Hopefully you're still there.
Yep, you're still here.
I did. Okay, sweet. I did one with blueberries, and then I did one with grapes.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah, really interesting results. Not what you would think. I mean, just from a processing perspective, what you start with isn't necessarily what you end with. So it is a bit of an adventure.
Okay, so I have.
That's true.
I think we're back. Okay, so let me get some more water for my kettle. I will be back in a second.
What did we want to add about elevation?
Oh, a lot more.
Until he gets back. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was just cupping
We
into
just started.
the screen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, super nice.
All right.
So Eric had started to talk a little bit about the different coffee growing. Should I wait until write it down? I don't know where he went.
Oh.
Oh,
He's still. I don't know if he has his headphones in there.
Okay.
My headphones are not in.
There we go. Got it. Okay.
All right. So, I have been tasting this geisha, and it's been really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the geisha that I brewed, and then I have the typica as well, and then I'm going to brew one or two other coffees as well. But I think I'll definitely save some of these coffees so I can brew them on some other streams going forward, because it's always interesting to me to kind of explore, I would say, quote unquote, off regions nowadays, where like a lot of enthusiasts just don't really ever try these types of coffees. So I have the geisha here that I brewed, and you know what's interesting is like you wouldn't expect there to be this level of acidity from, I guess this coffee is grown at, how many feet is that? That is not
1660.
1660. Yeah. Wow.
Yep. And this is something that I wanted to touch on and talk about a little bit more, because there's a big misunderstanding of elevation's play in coffee quality. And one of those big misconceptions and things that aren't taken into account is your distance from the equator. Because if you're further from the equator, your frost line comes down the mountain much lower.
Yeah.
So pretty much the highest possible elevation you can grow coffee in Hawaii is usually 2,500 feet.
3,000.
3,000, 2,500 feet, depending on your pocket. Yeah, the coffee trees won't survive.
Yeah.
So 2,500 feet is a very similar climate to 2,500 meters if you're near the equator.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, there are other things in play, like definitely coffees that are grown at really high elevation have a different atmospheric pressure, different oxygen levels, like different things that apply to a denser seed for sure. But you would be surprised how dense some of these coffees can get at these quote unquote lower elevations.
Yeah.
We have a question. Is coffee production in Hawaii considered stable, or are there unique slash standout challenges threatening the next few years and decades slash decades?
That's a great question.
That's a really great question. Do you want to take
Yeah,
it
I mean,
on
I
that
guess pest and disease is always a concern, and considering one of the things that kind of drove me crazy when I first moved here was just this like perpetual desire to continue to grow. This conversation that really came up about if we're gonna call it Kona, then it has to be the typical variety wash process, kind of like what you see in champagne, and being able to use that nomenclature. And it was just like that's very dangerous to plant a variety of coffee specifically that's so fragile. And um, so sure enough, in 2020, Hawaii, one of the last commercial growing regions in the world, got coffee leaf rust. It was first discovered on Maui, on the Hana coast. And within like 2 weeks of its discovery in Hana, made its way to Hawaii Island into Kona and spread really fast. And Hawaii has a really strict Department of Agriculture, so the way that raw material can be brought into Hawaii has to go through. If you're bringing in seedlings, it has to go through like a year of quarantine. If you're bringing in seeds, they have to be fumigated. And so there's a lot of regulation, and some of it's pretty outdated, but there's a lot of regulation on like bringing new varieties of coffee, specifically leaf rust resistant varieties of coffee, into Hawaii. So that's definitely something. I mean, I remember the terminology that was like being used was, or the question that was always being posed was, it's not if coffee leaf rust will come to Hawaii. It's just a matter of when. And so sure enough, yeah, we got it. And unfortunately, it was very a reactive response rather than being a thought out response that we'd been planning for. So I see that as having been a threat for the last couple of years. I mean, yields were down in some cases for some farms, like 50%. Some growers pulled back from growing coffee and pulled out their trees. A lot of growers, at least had to stump their coffee. But I think that also brings up another challenge here is and I think that this is true for many growing regions around the world, is the aging producer and not really having to hand it down to people losing interest in agriculture production out here in Hawaii. And that's definitely, and it's also really cost prohibitive to grow anything in Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything?
I think the only other thing I would add, both those are the main 2 points. The other one is just kind of some legal stuff that's been going on within the coffee industry. So there was a report that came out, I can't remember what year,
2019, yeah.
2019, that, don't quote me on exact numbers, but you'll get the idea, that about 3 million pounds of Kona coffee was produced and about 20 million was sold.
Yeah.
Oh,
if that kind of like, if that kind of rings some bells. So basically, there's been a lot of people who have been accused and prosecuted for buying counterfeit coffees and selling them as Kona for a much higher price. So
a lot of retailers wound up being penalized, even though they were under the impression that they were purchasing Kona coffee. So like big box stores like Kroger, Costco, they all came down with in a litigation, and there was a big payout for the Kona coffee producers, but also the aftermath of that was again them coming down a lot harder on how coffee is labeled here. And also we just are seeing that there's like kind of a fear from retailers about like, how do we know, like, where is the
How
what does
can we
this apply
improve
to?
it?
How do we improve it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I feel like I did see something where there was something to do with like the visibility and legality of that. But yeah, it's interesting because like I guess like they're held. I'm just kind of curious. It's like is it from like a farming perspective? I guess like there are protections for the farmers that the state has instituted or it's done that way because I just feel like I don't maybe I don't know enough about this, but like what are the rights for like the farmers and all of that because I'm pretty sure in other like countries it's not I don't know if there's like that same type of or organization
Sure.
or people who want to look into that. I don't know, just a thought.
Yep.
Hmm.
No, that's a good thought because there are some organizations that exist here on island to help and protect farmers. So that's some of these organizations have been leading the charge in prosecution of some of these companies
Mm-hmm.
and some industries that are taking advantage of a system. So that's obviously great, and we're thankful for them helping Hawaii. But there's still quite a bit of uh, danger. I mean, for the foreseeable future for coffee farmers here in Kona, for similar things to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the coffee so far, Brian?
So I have the Hydro Honey Gesha here, the
Yep,
Kona Typica here, and then this is the
yep,
2,500 feet SL34. So three different varietals, all processed very differently. I mean, like these are processing that you would find in other regions like your Columbias and all of that. One thing that's really
yep.
interesting. So I'm gonna taste this SL34, but mm, what's interesting about all these coffees is I feel like so I guess this is kind of back to your point about elevation. Is when I'm tasting these coffees, I
Mm-hmm.
actually these I guess like when I'm looking at it, I'm like, this shouldn't make sense in terms of the level of acidity that I'm getting. What's really interesting is
Right.
there's this structure of acidity that I'm getting, especially out of the Typica, that I'm like, that's crazy to me. I mean, also all these coffees are
Yeah.
actually really really clean, but it's still the structure of acidity that's interesting. They all finish. These coffees finish like kind of distinctive and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what is this? What does Hawaiian coffee taste like? Because like to me, this is what all these, despite there being different processing, different varietals, you can kind of taste. There's different expressions of it. There is something in the back or at the finish that I'm like, okay, this is what I think Hawaiian coffee or Kona coffee tastes like.
Mm,
But so that's what I'm trying to figure out as I taste these. But um, mm,
for sure.
all
Or I mean, you can blame the roaster on that one too. These were flying from the hip, just getting some samples out
yeah,
to you.
but
So you definitely could
um,
have dialed in a little more.
yeah, but these coffees are all like clean. I feel like there's kind of also like a really nice at least the Gesha, the Hydro Gesha, and the Kona Typica to me have this really interesting tropical, like they taste yellow to me,
Yep,
and
yep.
that's what's. But there's still this like level of expressiveness in terms of acidity that is quite surprising. Like this,
Right.
you were looking at this and you're like, this is 1660 feet. 2,500
Yeah.
feet or 1,800 feet, right? And that's really interesting because I feel like this is the type of level of acidity I feel like you would experience out of some like wash coffees from other regions and maybe that like 1,600 to 1,800, maybe even like 2,000 meters, right? Meters
Yeah.
above sea level, which is
Yep.
quite interesting. Also, I at least of these three coffees that I have tasted so far, I feel like I'm gonna let these cool down, but I was gonna say I feel like the quality of processing is quite quite amazing here. Is like I'm not really tasting any sort of, I would say, like separation between processing and varietal. I feel like these are all these to me taste like processing that is elevating the varietal that's been in here. So I think that's what's quite surprising, at least at this initial pass of tasting these coffees. So
Absolutely. And I will say the other geisha is a little bit more on that disjointed, funky side. So I did include one that's kind of a little bit more experimental.
Yeah.
But all these ones are relatively clean, except for that other geisha.
Yeah, I mean there's the inoculated. I mean, but this other one that's like yeast inoculated, the SL34 doesn't to me doesn't taste like crazy in terms of
No.
did they go too far? Right, they didn't go too far here.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So right. So this is what I'm trying to figure out. Where somebody's asked, what flavor notes are typically associated with Hawaiian specialty coffee? Right. This is like a. It's hard to. I think it's a hard question to answer. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a really hard question. I mean, Hawaii is comprised of, I mean, eight growing regions. This island alone has over dozen microclimates. You grow coffee all over the island, across the islands, and each island has a very unique topography and geological map, I guess, if you will. I mean, it's a really unique growing region in how much variation there is from place to place that you go.
Yep.
I mean, this area where we are right now, where Eric has been producing coffee for the last year, tends to be, I mean, on the lower part of the everything here is sloped because we're on a volcano, and it's a pretty steep slope here in Kona. So lower elevation coffees here are much, much drier climates than if you just go not even a mile up the road. I mean, then you get rain every single afternoon, sunshine in the morning. Where down here, we might not have rain for like a week straight, in some cases. So, and that's just, I mean, that's one neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's really hard to articulate like, a specific flavor profile. Certainly, like from our experience, where we've had the privilege of being able to taste such a wide range of coffees from across the islands, and then just within this growing region, I mean, we also have a lot of different varieties that are grown here now. We have, these novel processing methods that we're seeing being presented now. So you get a pretty broad range. If we were to try to like articulate the heritage Kona coffee profile, so this is the Kona Typica variety that's been grown here for like almost 200 years, washed, processed, kind of like what we would call the heritage profile, or what people call the heritage coffee profile here. I would say floral, delicate, tea-like, citric acid, a little bit of lemon, apple,
milk chocolate,
so yeah,
almond,
soft.
Soft.
Soft, and then in certain cases, you definitely get this like nice pop of florality and brightness.
That is a good way to try to articulate. There's like so many different variables that impact what we're tasting, but I think that I do get this. So in all three of these coffees, I'm gonna brew one more as well. I'm gonna brew the Pakmara, but these three coffees all kind of finish very. I think it's like milk chocolate and like tea. Maybe like I don't know. I'm trying to like figure out if there's something that I've eaten in recent times that's like this, but it kind of reminds me of like. I don't think it's like Earl Grey exactly, but like there's like some chocolates that have tea in them, or like a tea flavored chocolate. But still, what's interesting to me is like the level of acidity in this is like the geisha and the I think I might like this geisha the most so far, the hydro, but the geisha and the Typica here have this level of acidity and expressiveness that I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And then you get this like level of acidity that's there, and then it kind of like to me when I think about I guess higher quality coffees or higher scoring coffees, right? Like there is this level of harmony from that acidity that then kind of is tied to this. I would say this is what I think Kona coffee tastes like, which is to me now this more like milk chocolate tea like effect. So and then the acidities that I'm experiencing here is more of a, I would say a tropical, like to me it's more of like a tropical or yellow fruit acidity that I'm getting here. That then goes into this like really nice sweetness that's lingering on my palate. Maybe something like cacao nibs is something I could say as well. But really interesting. Like honestly, very interesting coffees here.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, some of the typicas that we had on the table this year, I was really blown away by the diversity. Like we had some that were like lavender florals, and some that were coffee blossom, some that were orange blossom, some that were lilac, some that were really phosphoric acidity, some that were very citric. Like the range can be so huge, and Britt touched on the range of climates here on the island, and just to share this little fun fact, like here on the Big Island, there are 11 of the possible 13 microclimates in the world here on this island. So yeah, you drive 5 miles in any direction, you're basically in an entirely different microclimate.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the farms are just so varied in every direction. The soil's different. This is the youngest Hawaiian island, so like the volcanic soil here is super young as far as like it breaking down and it making more nutrients for the trees. So just a very fascinating growing region.
We have a question. What fraction of the fancy specialty stuff stays in Hawaii domestically versus what is shipped out? So basically, it's like the question is like, if you're a coffee nerd and you go to Hawaii and you want to get the good stuff, can you get the good stuff there? Like, is it in there, or like where can we get some of this stuff? Because
mostly in Hawaii, because it's advantageous for the grower to sell directly to consumer, right? Like there's just a better margin when they can sell a roasted coffee product directly to the consumer. So I mentioned this earlier, most of what's produced in Hawaii is, quote, consumed in Hawaii, just meaning that it's sold in Hawaii. So, if you come to Hawaii, like you would be able to at least visit the farm, and would they have these exact coffees available for purchase? I couldn't guarantee that.
Yeah.
I feel like these are like, they're like
year. It's ready now.
Yeah.
It's going to be here next year.
They're like passing clouds. I mean, they really are. They're rare, and they move fast, and they change from the second, from 1 minute to the next, and it's gone. So
yeah,
for sure.
They're hard to get your hands on.
Yeah. So because I think for a lot of people, it's like, of course you can go to Hawaii and try to get these coffees, but I know a lot of people will want to try to experience this, like or online. People want to buy some of these coffees, but I guess it's really difficult when you're telling me some of these coffees that are entered in these competitions are like 5-pound lots or some like really really tiny amount.
Yes, but I think this is such a cool opportunity for the people that are participating and seeing this. Like this is an opportunity for you to make these kinds of connections with coffee growers. So like I said before, you go onto the Kona Coffee Cultural website and you check out who the winners are from this year. Go on the Hawaii Coffee Association website and see, they have over a decade of lists of farmers that have come in the top score, who are award-winning coffee farmers. You just make a quick Google search with those names, and then you potentially have access to, a new coffee grower friend, and can learn a lot more and buy directly from the farmer. And it's one of my favorite things about working in Hawaii coffee is the close access that you have to coffee growers like Eric.
Sure. One thing I will say on that too, though, is I know your audience, like I'm in the Discord. Like people who are looking for ultralights are it's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
There are a few people who are doing ultralight coffees or things that are just in that type of flavor profile, which maybe we can partner something and put out a special release or something if people are interested in ultralight Hawaii coffees. That would be a fun thing to do because not a lot of people get exposed to that, and not a lot of people get to taste that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely this is, for me, I definitely want to go and visit you guys, right? That is like, hopefully in the travel plans for next year. But yeah, I think for me, it's like I want to go and see it with my own eyes, get to experience it and all of that. And yeah, of course, if we could, maybe we could do a cool like collaborative release on some of these coffees, and get them out to people. That would be amazing.
right.
Yeah, it's just really rare to be able to experience coffee like this.
Yes.
So in terms of harvesting for some of these coffees, what are the harvest times around? Like, what is it different because of the elevation, distance to equator, so on and so forth? Like,
Yes.
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 Yeah. I mean, even so, I manage two farms just in this neighborhood. They're literally like a mile and a half apart, and there's difference in my harvest seasons between
Wow.
these two areas. So you'll see a big difference where down in the south portion of the island in Ka'u, one of my personal favorite regions here on the Big Island. That'll be one I think in the future will get a lot more attention for their quality specifically. Um, they pretty much harvest year round. Like their climate is just at that point where their coffee trees are just always producing, and in this cycle where it's just slow picking all year long.
Wow.
Where typical time for Kona, you're looking at like September into December. That's usually harvest season. So right now is harvest season. I'm doing a lot of picking right now. And it can change though, even depending on. We were pushed back quite a ways just because we had a huge dry spell in the middle of the season. So we were producing, but then we hit a pause for like a month, and I wasn't able to harvest really hardly any coffee. And then, boom, it just hit again. So it can really vary year to year, season to season, region to region. But that's kind of general for Big Island.
And so when you're harvesting, you just go from like down the street, like you go and harvest, and then you like go down the street a mile to another. Wow. And how much are you typically
so I live on
picking?
this property.
Wow.
I mean, so the other farm, the other farm that I'm managing away from this property is a little bit bigger. I have about 3,000 trees on that property, but only 600 of them are producing right now. So I do a rotation.
I see.
So those 600 trees, when it's just starting in harvest, like I'm trying to pick often because it's just me. I don't have any workers. So I'm trying to pick when it's manageable for me to pick.
I see.
So sometimes early season, late season, it's like 30 to 60 pounds per pick. But right now the picks are like 200 pounds per pick. So for one person, that's a lot of picking and a lot of work. But if I have some room to hire people, then I can bring that output up. But I'm just trying to keep stuff as sustainable as possible right now.
And then you're selling your coffee so you pick the coffees and you, I guess, sell it domestically in Hawaii.
Yes, for the most part.
I see.
Yeah. Selling domestically. I have a very unique agreement with managing these coffee farms. So the other coffee farm, basically they're old. Like this is the story of the coffee industry worldwide is people are older and they just can't manage their farms anymore. So essentially I'm managing this guy's farm. In return, he just wants some green and then I can do what I want with the rest. So We have a set agreement. Hey, I'll give you this much green every year and continue to farm your land. And then, me as a person who can't afford a coffee farm in Hawaii can farm, but also it helps the person who owns the land as well.
I see.
And where are you selling your coffee?
Yeah, so actually, I've sold some of my coffee to PCR, which is super great. I have a connection there. So that's been awesome. And then the rest of the coffee is kind of TBD. Basically producing at as high a level as I can right now. I'm trying to produce the highest potential that I can. Still learning. I'm like a year and a half into coffee farming, but I have a couple great teachers. So just trying to improve and keep stuff rolling forward. I brought some to SCA where we met, but it was the first harvest season, so still learning and figuring some stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, at least the coffees you've given me here, these are all very impressive for like I just feel like I when I see some of this stuff, I'm always a little skeptical because I've gotten the chance to taste like a bunch of different interesting coffees from like your China, Thailand, India, Indonesia, and you lump a lot of these, like I guess you think in your head and you kind of lump a lot of these coffees into it. It's like, oh, it's gonna be like good for XYZ, like, oh, this is good for Indian coffee or good for a something like that. But the coffees I'm tasting here are these are like way better than what I expected. I don't know, that's not to like say that like these are like bad or anything, but it's just like really interesting because I'm like, okay, I have never tasted Hawaiian coffee, these coffees of this caliber before. And I think that, and then in the context of like tasting this coffee against against all the other coffees I taste, I'm like, these are actually, they're holding their own. They're for me, who as someone who really likes some of the clean and structured and expressive coffees, like this Hydro Honey Gesha is tasting really great. SL34 is tasting really great. And I'm like, these are really interesting because also, when you look at, like, this is also another, I guess, a challenge with like point scores is like when you look at point scores, you kind of already think like, oh, this is an 86. It's going to be like, it's going to be like these qualities of an 86, right? But I don't really, I'm just removing myself from like the point scores here, and I'm saying I'm just going to taste these, and I'm like, what is interesting about them? And I think a lot, at least the three coffees I brewed initially, and I have a little bit of the red brew on here. Or not red brew, but the Pakmara. I'm like, these are all like way louder, way super expressive. They do not taste like they're only, like 1,000 feet above the ground, right? 1,500 feet, right? And that's what's really interesting. And you can taste that the level of work, at least from the processing end, has really elevated these coffees. Or I don't know if it's elevating, but it's like good. It's like nothing's like weird, right? I guess in that sense, like this tastes really good. So very, quite impressive actually. Like I think so. That's why I'm like, oh wow, I really want people to be able to try these coffees. So I'm hoping maybe in some of your next harvests or anything like that, we can get the coffees out to some people. Pretty sure I could find a friend or somebody here that could do the roasting. We could get the greens, we could get the coffees out there, and then it could be a really fun collaboration. But I do eventually want to make my way over there and be able to kind of document a lot of this stuff, right? We'll go and maybe we can do some processing together, and then we can do a collaboration. That would be very, very fun.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, these are all clean. That's what's interesting. Is like this Pakmara also very, very clean.
Yep. And you touched on something really important, I think, too, to talk about is the perspective of Hawaii can really lead to depressed scoring, and it can also really play into biases, right? So one of my favorite thing to do with Hawaii coffees is have them on a cupping table blind, right? So have some Colombias, some Ethiopias, some whatever, and then have a Hawaii or two coffees in there and have people taste everything. And then they're just experiencing the coffee without any pre-assumptions. And all of a sudden at the end, when they find out it's Hawaii, their mind is blown, right? They just like, wow, I can't believe that's a Hawaii coffee. And yeah, too, even looking at the scores here from the competition, these are great, and these are the highest scores that have been given to Kona coffees inside of the Kona coffee competition. But still, I feel like they are lacking to describe how good these coffees are, and I think that partially has to do with the perception of Kona coffee. So the specialty market kind of has a low view of Kona coffee, and the consumer market has a crazy high view of Kona coffee. And yeah, we kind of need to educate and get exposure. It's just people haven't experienced them, right? To be able to level that out.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, I hope that in at least the coming years we're able to get some of these coffees, out to more people, right? Because I think at least like, yeah, these coffees I'm tasting here, I'm like, yeah, these are all incredibly expressive coffees, and I know people who are into like the modern specialty coffee nerd who's drinking like all these coffees from all these high end roasters, right? It's like these are all coffees that would 100% fit in their their taste preferences and all of that. It's just like rare, right? It's hard to get some of those coffees there. But yeah, I think this is really interesting. Like these coffees are at least the ones that I've tasted. I'm gonna save some of I still have more that I can drink, but I'll probably save them for some future streams and all of that. But yeah, like I'm really happy to thank you for sending these coffees over. I think my favorite one might be I'm trying to debate between the it's Typica or the Hydro Honey. The Hydro Honey is really interesting. I mean, both of them are like, they're both really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. SL34 is also really
honey
good.
just like keeps moving so nicely.
Yeah, it keeps going, which is really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like these coffees have now really, really cooled down, and like I would say that I'm not really tasting anything that where like the coffee is quote unquote falling apart, or like you're tasting a distinct separation between processing and the varietal, right? We're tasting like a lot of structure, right? And these are things that are that I would argue are you'll experience in a high scoring coffees or like in all the other regions, right? And like so it's just like from a taste perspective, I think these are totally up there with a lot of the other regions that people enjoy. But I do think in the coming years, I hope to see that more exposure to like the nerds, like the hyper, the enthusiasts, right? Like a lot of the enthusiasts just don't get the chance to experience these types of coffees. So I just hope that we're able to get some of these coffees out there, and if they are of this level in terms of quality, I can't imagine people not. I imagine people will love them. I guess the only challenge then is like yields, right? The yields of how much there is, and then pricing and all of that, just how it is. But I think for a lot of enthusiasts, right, it's really even then if you throw away if you don't care if you even look at like pricing, right, I think a lot of enthusiasts want to try these coffees just to experience, right? It's like at least that is the journey that I am in my enthusiast phase. Is I'm not buying coffee because say it's like the highest scoring coffee or it's like the fanciest coffee. I just want to try stuff. So like in recent memories, there were things like the Kenyan Gesha from Say, which was like absurdly expensive for what it is. Is it as good as your fancy Panama Geshas? No, but you're not buying it because it is the best, right? You're buying it because you want to support this this thing from this thing happening, and you want to also experience the flavors. So I think that's what's I'm quite excited for, in the coming future for these coffees. And I really hope I hope in this next year I'm able to maybe make a trip out there to see you guys, and maybe we can do some cool videos and also do like a nice collaboration on some of these coffees.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, again, thank you so much for sending these coffees over.
Yeah. Thanks again for creating a platform. I really love what you're doing on the farmer side of things, like watching you with Jose down in Ecuador and some of the stuff that you've been touching on with even the Thailand coffee videos that you were just posting. I just love the exposure and the widening of the lens that you're bringing into the specialty community. I really appreciate that. So thank you so much, Brian, for this opportunity.
Yeah, but yeah, I think we'll probably wrap up. I'm not sure if there's any other people in the chat who want to add anything, but I'm pretty sure there will be, comments and things like that on Discord and all of that in the future. But where should we, or what are you guys have, like the website and all of that? We should plug that in. I can put that in. I'll find it and I'll put it on the video and all of that. So I think that should be good. But yeah, I think that's
social media. We're on social media.
Yeah. I'm on the Discord too, so if anybody wants to reach out
Is it
about
under,
my
is it
coffee,
under your name?
it's just under my name.
Yeah.
Eric Musel. We'll throw it on there somewhere. But
yeah. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions on Hawaiian coffee, Kona coffee, all of that, feel free to reach out to Eric, and we can always talk about this more in the Discord. But yeah, very excited to have been able to taste these coffees, and I want to thank everybody for watching, and I also want to thank you two for hopping on the stream with me and sharing these coffees as well. So yeah, okay, I guess I'll wrap up now, but I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching, everybody, and also thank you guys for doing this. Okay, cool.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right. Cool. So that was fun. Now I am going to end this stream. And if you guys have any questions, on any of these coffees, let me know. I think we might taste some of these coffees at a later date as well. So we have a bunch of interesting Kona coffees. And yeah, see you guys later.